This week at the Internet Cafe, privacy on the net. Meet a private investigator who says he can find out an awful lot about you just by going online. This is the Trust E mark that tells you this website follows an approved policy on protecting the privacy of its visitors. Want to stay anonymous on the web? Try the Anonymizer from Infonex. This woman founded Women's Wire on AOL, and she'll have some special privacy tips for women online. Plus, employers snooping on employees, another complex issue of cyber privacy. Privacy on the net, this week at the Internet Cafe.
The Internet Cafe is brought to you by Z Auction, the live online shopping experience.
And by Audio Highway, makers of the Listen Up Player, which provides digital, portable, customized audio downloaded from the internet and played anytime, anywhere, on headphones or over a car radio. Additional funding from PC Connection and Mac Connection, the catalog and online superstore with PC and Mac products, toll-free technical support and overnight delivery. And by Windows Magazine, delivering desktop, enterprise, and internet computing news, reviews, features, and how-tos for a Windows world, because the world runs on Windows. And by Learn2.com, the Ability Utility.
So we're talking about privacy, or privacy as our producer says, on the web. Any of this stuff concern you?
Well, I don't feel like I have that much to hide, really.
You're such a simple guy.
I'm not that worried. I mean, sure, there's the commerce worries, or someone stealing your credit card. But otherwise, I'm kind of okay with it. Although I do think that there's some interesting things that have to do with privacy, and things that could upset some people. There's ways that you can really go online and search for people that you may have lost contact with, or maybe out there. I actually had an old college roommate call me about a month ago and just say, I found your email.
How'd you find my number?
Yeah, and he was living in the next town over.
Well, because you can do that on the CD-ROM phone book.
Exactly.
I've had the same thing.
Exactly.
What's your thought?
Well, I think for me personally, I think this the issue of the access of that kind of information to people. I may not want to have that information. I may choose not to do that.
Like a stalker or something.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Not that you would have a stalker.
My brother or something like
Right.
that. But, also I think is the whole concept of anonymity when I'm sending emails, that kind of thing, which we're going to talk about as well. I guess there's just different layers of privacy.
I think there's two kinds of privacy
about.
issues we're really talking about, and they're quite different. One is commerce and the credit card and that kind of stuff, and the other is just your personal behavior. People like going through your trash and knowing what you do.
Right.
And interesting stuff. Privacy on the web this week here at the Internet Cafe.
Robert Morton, Private Eye. I'm a huge detective fan. I mean, I'm always reading kind of cheesy detective novels and things like that. It's a good escape for me. It seems very glamorous, very exciting. What is the life of a PI really like?
It's fairly interesting. It's changed over the years from what people typically would envision. A lot of our work's done with the technology available today, and it's done in a far more efficient way, far more effective way. And
when you say technology, what type of technology are you using now that maybe wasn't available a few years ago?
Well, you always hear people say, get with the times. If you don't have a computer in your house, it's like, come on, get with the times, get a computer.
Right.
You don't have email? Well, it's not our job to be with the times. It's our job to be ahead of the times. So we've been involved with computers, our industry as a whole, for years.
And you're searching, finding information? What types of stuff are you doing out there?
Sure, we access our information via the internet through various database companies, or just online surfing. You don't need to go to the library anymore today.
To find information.
Our job's to find information. What better source than the internet? It's right in our office. We don't have to leave and go all over the place.
Right.
It can all be done right there.
Okay, now speaking of offices, I've been up on the web and I saw that you have a site up there, the Robert Morton Private Eye site. What's the name of your company?
Robert E. Morton and Associates.
And Associates, okay, so there's a group of you guys out there.
Yes.
Now, on that site, you've got some pretty interesting stuff, including an area where people can search and actually find information.
Right.
So isn't that cutting into your business in a sense?
Not at all. PIs we enjoy our websites. We enjoy people enjoying our websites, and one of the areas that we can offer some of that pleasure to people is to offer some simple links for some of the information that's available out there.
Now, I saw some kind of strange stuff up there, too. I saw some fun things, I must say, too, finding people's emails and all that, but I also found, like, the database of deadbeat dads and things out there, so there's definitely some
Yeah,
more
yeah.
interesting stuff.
There's things like that, or that's good for the general public to
Right,
know. That doesn't
right.
that doesn't cut into our
Right.
business.
Now, what is this thing, Home Fires, I saw in there as well?
That's a new organization that I started a couple of months ago. It actually hasn't been released yet. It's my goal is to get licensed investigators in every state in the in every state in the
Right.
country, and as many countries as possible, who are willing to volunteer their time in an effort to find missing kids.
So it's a resource that people can get together.
It's a resource that people can utilize when they have a missing kid. They can, through our website, they can
have people
access
found?
us. Yeah, we've had one case and we found one kid.
Really?
One for one.
Excellent. So that seems like a great service. Now,
Yeah.
as a private eye, what are some of the things that you can provide that possibly people couldn't get just by surfing the web?
Convenience, we know right where to go. Something that might take you days or weeks to find, we're right there. In the past, I'll give an example of criminal searches. It wasn't too long ago, and some courthouses are still the same way. You have to go in and flip through the microfiche and all that and do it by hand. Well, from my office, I can run a national search for criminal records,
And just
civil,
find
superior
stuff right
court-
away.
Right away.
So what do you think is next for the online detectives or detectives that are going online? Where do you see the future heading?
Jeez, that's a big question, and I don't really have a specific answer for you right now. I think things are changing by the minute. It's an exciting time, just for everybody in public, but for PI, everybody. This internet computer era is changing the way all jobs operate in industry, and especially ours. We are out there, in my opinion, cutting a path in an investigative avenue that's never been cut before.
Lance, there's so much talk about privacy or the lack thereof on the internet. So you've got this very interesting website called Anonymizer. What can you tell me about that?
The Anonymizer is a website and a web service that allows you to surf the web without leaving any trace behind at the sites you visit. So if you go to visit a site to look up information about a sensitive medical condition, financial advice, stocks, or to participate in a chat discussion on a website, the Anonymizer hides all of your personal information. So the only information that the site gets is that the Anonymizer has visited there. We also stop the cookies that the sites try to place on your browser.
Now explain to us what a cookie is.
A cookie is a piece of information that a site sends to your browser, that your browser saves, and then each time it connects to that site, it sends it back. This is used for many good purposes, but nowadays it's mostly being used to track users, to follow them through websites and across websites to see what they're interested in and the kind of places they want to go.
Sounds like an advertiser would love to have that kind of service as well.
Advertisers are the primary users of these. In fact, every single ad you see on the internet will typically place between 1 and 5 cookies on your browser.
Wow.
And what they're trying to do is they're trying to find out who you are, where you're going, what your age is, income. They want to build up as detailed a database on you as they possibly can so that they can focus their ads on you and just you. But the real fear is that these databases are being sold, they're being distributed, and you never know where they're going to end up.
So for example, if I went to a website and I was concerned about a health problem, I might have gone to a website that I wouldn't want somebody else to know about. My concern would be that cookie might be sent, that information may be sent to somebody who could use that against me, or?
Well, that's right. The advertiser may be saving that information. They now have in their database the fact that you've been visiting this website, looking up information about this particular condition. At some point, this database might end up being sold to, for instance, your insurance company. And there's really no precedent yet as to how that information might be used.
But that could be very significant in terms of privacy.
That's correct.
Now, from the other end, I mean, for one thing, I could be browsing and I want to have anonymity that way, but what about sending emails? What can I do to protect the privacy of the emails that I send?
There's a similar service for email, and it's called Anonymous Remailers. And it allows you to send email, in this case, not just to one server, but through a whole chain of servers using encryption. These servers are located all over the world. And this can be done either right in an email program or using any of a number of clients.
So what's the level of security? I mean, would you say it's fail-safe or?
The security of the anonymous remailers is really bulletproof. The threat model is monitoring of every node on the internet and some compromised remailers. That's a little better than the anonymizer, which is just a single site, but still provides pretty good security.
Now, Lance, you've called yourself a cypherpunk. Now, what exactly is a cypherpunk?
A cypherpunk is a member of a loose affiliation of people on the internet. The sort of central tenet of the cypherpunks is a belief in freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom of cryptography on the internet. We feel that regulation of the internet through laws to protect people, protect their privacy, is really inappropriate and tends to be invasive, and that the key is to give people the technology to protect themselves.
So basically, my own PC, I can encrypt everything that I send out, or if I go and browse the internet, I can maintain my privacy.
The technology exists to protect your information with a level of security that the government can't break in a billion years. And we feel that this is already deployed, and we want to make sure that it's available to everyone, not just the technological elite.
One of the interesting privacy issues on the web is just what do all these websites do with that information they gather about you and your surfing habits. There's a real interesting approach to this problem. It's called Trustee, and the executive director of Trustees here in the cafe tonight. Hi, how are you, Susan?
Fine, thanks, Stewart.
Tell us about Trustee. What's the idea behind it?
What we're trying to do is address the problem that many consumers and end users are very concerned over what happens once their personal information is disclosed to a website. And that's the problem we're trying to address.
All right, what do we mean by personal information? I mean, are we just talking credit card numbers or surfing habits, and what kind of stuff?
I think it's all of the above. It's your name, your address, email. You know, if they're counting your click stream and they can match it back to you personally, that's all personally identifiable.
Okay, so what is Trustee going to do about that?
What we are advocating is that websites disclose what they're going to be doing with the personal information. And based on that disclosure, the users will give their informed consent whether they are fine with the privacy policies or not. If they're not, they won't give the information out. If they are, they'll give the information.
Okay, so the problem is, first of all, a lot of people don't even know their information is being gathered, or their click stream, et cetera. And secondly, they don't know what these people are doing with it. So what would a privacy policy look like? I mean, some huge legal form is going to come up on the screen that I'm not going to read?
I think it would be totally useless if it was very legal, because for the average user, they wouldn't understand what it is. We want it to be very straightforward. Number one, what information are you collecting? What are you going to be doing with that information? Who are you sharing that information with? And is the user allowed to opt out, change any information, or remove themselves from the list?
All right, so this is kind of like a Better Business Bureau seal of approval or something. So
Exactly.
if a website agrees to follow this, some sort of acceptable policy, they can put a little Trustee sign up there and say, we're good guys, we've agreed to the Trustee privacy policies.
And when the user sees that seal, they click on it, and under that is a very in-depth privacy statement that explains further what their privacy policy actually is.
Well, what are the criteria? I mean, what are you asking these sites to do to qualify?
Just basically those 6 things. Disclose those 6 items as far as what information you're gathering, what you're doing with it, who you're sharing it with, as well as if they can change or opt out. And those are the types of things
But
that we're
is that
asking.
enough? I mean, so what? So I found out what they're doing with it. They're still getting this information. I'm still not going to start to get junk email and all this other kind of stuff now, right?
Well, I think that's, if they're truly disclosing what they say they're doing with it, you shouldn't be getting that type of information if you choose not to. I think the whole thing is, privacy is a very subjective thing. Everything is different. Your privacy feelings may be different from mine, and you should be allowed to express that in any way you feel. Some people feel so strongly about their privacy, they just pay everything in cash. They don't want the credit card company to know what they're buying or anything like that. So I think what we want to do is respect that and give the user all the information they need in order to make an informed decision.
All right, so if I'm running a store on the web and some cyber shop or something, I have your Trustee stamp of approval. Do I have to pay you for that, for the right to do that? How does that work?
There's a licensing fee, an annual licensing fee that ranges from $500 if you're a small website to $5,000 if you're a large company.
All right, and so I've paid you this fee. Is that it? I mean, do you then continue to monitor me to make sure I do what? Who polices this thing?
Trustee will police that, and what we do is we have a series of reviews that need to be passed. We have random audits that are done by Coopers and Lybrand and KPMG Pete Marwick. They actually go out and do an on-site privacy audit. as well as online reviews by trustee staff.
All right, now who's backing you guys, though? I mean, are you part of the cyber shopping industry, or are you an outside group, or what?
Well, the industry is supporting us, and we have 12 sponsors right now. AT&T, IBM, Land's End are a couple that we
guys
have.
who want to get cyber commerce to work.
Exactly right, who have a big vested interest in e-commerce taking off.
Yeah, and what's on your website? You have a website too, right?
Yes.
Trustee.org?
Right. And what's on our website is basically our licensees. We're also trying to really use it as an educational site for consumers to come on, learn how they can protect their privacy online, to report any violations for us so we can follow up on that also. Also, we have a publisher side of it where we're encouraging publishers and educating them as far as why privacy pays.
All right, let's go check it out.
Okay.
The reality is that a lot of people are accessing the internet at work. Mark, for you as an IT manager at a nonprofit organization, getting information about what your employees are doing while they're at work, while they're accessing the internet is very important to you, as well as getting information about the people coming to your website in turn. What are some of the things that you've done to be able to manage that information?
What we've done is we've purchased a product called SQL Net Access Manager. What that allows us to do is to restrict access to which employees can surf the web, which employees have email access, which employees can participate in news groups, which employees can use FTP or file transfer, in other words, to download or load software.
So now, once you've set those controls in place, what are the things in terms of reports that you're most interested in retrieving about your employees' activities?
What we're most interested in is that we are totally privately funded, so we have a sacred bond to use our donors' money as properly as possible, and so we're very concerned that employees are being productive using the internet. In other words, they're going to sites that are related to their job and not spending time looking up ball scores or even worse yet, pornographic or gambling sites.
Now, your employees are aware of the fact that you're monitoring. That was an open discussion that you had with all the employees. Now, given that, sometimes you get to a website and you're either doing a search for something and you get to a website which is pertinent to what you're looking for, but then by accident you get to another website. What happens with your folks?
Okay, what I had was, in fact, we had one of our nurses who was looking at an anatomy site and by mistake clicked on a link and ended up at a pornographic site. Once she realized it, she left the site, but she was very concerned that a report would go out. It would go to upper management and people would look at it and say, look what this person is doing on this site. And I assured her that it wasn't really a concern. It's something that anyone can do on the internet, click on the wrong link, and that certainly the history of her access would show that she didn't spend her time looking at...
She wasn't going specifically for that.
Exactly.
Now, you're pretty much on the fence. I mean, you're monitoring information that your employees are gathering on the internet and activities in terms of email, but on the other side, you're also interested in the visitors that are coming to your website. What are you doing with that information?
That's correct. We're, we're making sure that on the visitors that come to our website that we're not taking any personal information. First of all, we're not interested in that. However, we want to use our website as a way to reach more people who we can serve.
Right.
And so we're very concerned with where are they from? In other words, what country are they from? How did they get to us? Was it from a search engine or was it some way else?
So where are the best places for you to make your website available to them? And
exactly.
Are you interested in where they're going in the website? I mean, the processes that they're going through as well?
Yes, we are. Because for instance, on part of our site, a potential applicant can actually fill out an application. So we're very interested in how many people go to that site, how many people contemplate filling out an application.
That's interesting. So it's an interesting thing to watch, not on the other side of the fence, not talking about the individual and the privacy issues there, but your rights as a business entity to maintain privacy for your corporation, also make sure that your time on the internet is being spent properly.
Exactly. As I said, we're very concerned with who, for instance, participates in news groups, who acts as an official spokesperson for us.
All right, so I guess the question, Nancy, is, it seems to me in cyberspace, where there's no guy who can hit you over the head, you know, and physically hurt you,
Right.
are there special privacy concerns that a woman would have online that a woman would be more worried about than a man?
I think so. I think that because there's anonymity online, that some of the rules of etiquette aren't established. There is an etiquette, but there still is a ways to go. So because people can be anonymous, they'll do things, I think, online that they wouldn't do necessarily in person, because the social mores would keep them from doing that.
All they can do is say bad things, right?
Exactly, but it becomes very annoying. For instance, on one particular online service, you get flashes of sort of instantaneous messages that come across your screen.
Right.
Well, that's more like walking, if you're on a hike and you go through a little cloud of mosquitoes. It's annoying.
Okay.
And what you want to be able to do is, we always say, tools, not rules. So if you have a filtering mechanism where you can turn off IMs, which are instant messages, or you can turn off sends, that's a Unix term, and be able to empower the person to filter the kind of information they get, that helps. But it is true what you said about, it's not like walking down the street and being physically accosted. But it can be scary if somebody threatens to take it into the real world. I think that's where women get scared, and there's some things you can do about that.
All right, well, let's back up for a second. I mean, is it sort of sexual harassment you're talking about? I mean, guys that will say just nasty, rude things to women online?
Yeah, pretty much. It's not even so much that it's nasty or rude, but just real point blank, like, you want to have sex, you know? It's just like, no beating around, you know? And so it's like, no. And pretty much I've found from being online for 10 years that if you ignore it, that it just goes away. Or if you just, the next thing you can do is just be really terse and say, no way, get a life. You know, and then there are sort of steps of recourse that you can take.
But in terms of the privacy issue, I think you recommend that you really stay so private that maybe you don't even let people know you're a woman online?
I actually don't do that myself. I use my full name online. I also work in the online world, so as my business persona. But how about that?
Would you recommend that a woman mask herself behind a male handle?
I can't recommend that, because I don't do that myself. However, I know some women that do that, and I know some men who have had a woman's name to try it out.
The irony is, I mean, a lot of guys say, hey, log on as a woman, you get more attention.
You get a lot of attention, but it's real shallow attention. It's not necessarily deep, wonderful conversations, or, you know, it's just kind of the mentality. You feel like a bunch of 13-year-old prepubescent boys are hitting you up, and it's just kind of irritating. It's not, I never have felt personally frightened. However, I don't want to minimize the fact that some women have had things happen to them. But it seems to me that most of the cases I know about happen to be from an ex-boyfriend or an ex-husband, not a complete stranger.
Trying to get back to this issue of preserving your privacy as a woman, you said something before that's interesting. The real fear is that this goes somewhere into the physical world where it really could get dangerous. So what should a woman do to make sure that doesn't happen, or it happens in a safe way?
For one thing, you yourself, and you teach your daughters, never, and your sons for that matter, never give real information to a complete stranger. In your profile or your little biography online, don't put where you live. How do you know
when they stop becoming a stranger?
Oh, I think I've heard women that have met people online and dated that they always meet in a public place, for one thing. You never give your home address, never give your home phone number until you've had a lot of chances to feel like you've gotten to know the person. Then meet in, you know, in a separate place.
Any particular websites you would recommend a woman go to looking for information, just resources on this issue of women's privacy on the web?
I would recommend that they do a search through a browser on the web and look up online harassment.
Well, don't you have something called Street Smarts you told me about?
And then on America Online, I would suggest that they go to keyword women, if they're an AOL member, and look up Street Smarts, which is a class. It's an online class that you can sign up for to talk about different sort of rules of the road and tips as far as safety online.
And what kinds of things would be covered there again? When you say safety, again,
well, safety would be the fact that you might not want to use your real name as your screen name. Don't give your telephone number. Don't give where you live. And different levels of recourse if you are harassed.
So even in cyberspace, you've got to be careful if you're a woman.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Nancy.
Exactly. You're welcome.
All right, so we've learned a little bit more about these privacy issues. You still don't care. I mean, they can follow you around on the web all they want.
Let me tell you a little story, actually. I've had a glimpse into having your privacy burst. My aunt I found out was going onto a lot of chat sites and really into it, and was actually in some kind of racy sites, if you will. And I was able to kind of go in there, and I knew her password. I knew what her password, what her name was, her code name. So,
you now know her kinky behavior.
Well, I kind of now know what it's like to be on the other side.
Yeah, so you could spy on her through the web.
Well, could be. I hope she doesn't watch the show either.
Jane, what do you think?
Well, I kind of tried to take a slightly different view and understand from an organization's perspective why they'd be checking what their employees are doing.
That kind of privacy.
And even though I can understand that there's an accountability to the people who are paying for this nonprofit organization, the whole nine yards, but I still just had this really strange, not a comfortable feeling. I mean, there's a level of, you want to be able to go and look.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think there's a mistake. People are so used to radio and television, which is a one-way medium. The web is two-way. People can follow you, trace your actions. I think they're very serious issues there. There was that old New Yorker cartoon on the web, They Don't Know You're a Dog. These days, they not only know you're a dog, they know what you're eating and where you're sleeping. So I think it's serious stuff.
The Internet Cafe is brought to you by Z Auction, the live online shopping experience.
And by Audio Highway, makers of the Listen Up player, which provides digital, portable, customized audio downloaded from the internet and played anytime, anywhere on headphones or over a car radio. Additional funding from PC Connection and Mac Connection, the catalog and online superstore with PC and Mac products, toll-free technical support, and overnight delivery. And by Windows Magazine, delivering desktop, enterprise, and internet computing news, reviews, features, and how-tos for a Windows world, because the world runs on Windows. And by Learn2.com, the Ability Utility.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify show number and topic.